Well, a lot of Barron people were gravitating to Murrells Inlet, and Dad had been down to the King's house. That was the first one in the row. The Kings, and then the Joneses and Martins and us. And so they, then my grandfather, Papa Byers, he decided he and his boys were Ed Byers and Dad Luther, and they decided to build a house. So it was a very basic house, I'll assure you. There was absolutely no running water, no running water, and no lights.
No.
But actually, when I was born and came down there still wasn't any real.
They had a screen porch, though, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they lived out on a screen porch.
Screen porch, and there was the big oak.
Yeah.
That was around so that's why they call it cozy oak. Yeah. And
the oak tree was surrounded by screen porch.
Screen porch. Roaches to beat the band.
Well, our family would come down in June instead of August, and then we followed our children, and then you and I, after Mother died, it was before. After Daddy died, then we had to divide up the estate, and so one of us got the big house, one got the little house, and you got the little house.
We got the little house,
and
as the family grew bigger and bigger, we decided we better get another place. We knew we wanted to be in Murrells Inlet, and we heard about this place.
And so John went down here and bid on it for you.
Yeah, and
bought it.
Everybody was, I've forgotten what we paid for it, but not much. I mean, it's about 4 lots right here at the same place. And the people of Marion were just, oh, he paid that much? He paid that much? But if this is the original house. Now, I know no history about it, except what it was here when they sold the house, and they said they would take the house off because it was in such bad shape, and it was just a very small, from there to there. We added more and added more.
And then after Hugo, you did a
And then we had Hugo, and we had to make some. There was one. I don't know whether it was a tree or something, but entered that window over there all the way to the back of the kitchen. That's the kind of thing that you found in the big storm. Yeah.
It was a storm.
And one inletter, I'm trying to think of his name right now, I can't be good. He said, I knew, John, that you were going to have, that your house was going to take, because there's a little stream right out here, and that would invite the thing. So that's what happened.
Well, you took a beating there. Of course, everybody did. Yeah. That was the storm. But our children had such a good time. The boys, your boys and my boys, decided they would like to have a bridge across there so they could get to Billy Hewitt's place. So they would bring some boards. They went out and
they had all. I don't know where they picked up that.
Well, they picked them up in the creek.
That's right.
They'd take it high tide and take to the boat and pick up 2x4s and some planks and so forth, and finally got enough, and they built a little bridge over to the other side.
And that was one of the first things that
of course.
Storm.
That you did not replace the little old bridge, but the boys loved going back and forth.
They did.
That was Billy Hewitt.
I tell you what, we'll talk about it a little while. Is getting from Marion to Murrells Inlet. And we had a fairly large family, not really. It was just our older brother and Titi and I. But we, of course, would take the dogs with us too. And we had a little dog, and I did not realize then and understand. He would smell the atmosphere, and just jumping back and forth and back and forth. So we knew we were getting the Merles in at that time. And it was, and we had lots of house parties at that same house.
Papa Byers and Dad and some of them, they came down and helped build that house.
Did they? I did not know that.
The original house, they came down and, of course, added their 2 cents worth in there.
Of course.
We got lots of tales about the old house.
Oh, yeah.
We had a dining room, which went, of course, from one end to the other, to the kitchen in the back. Then there was a little bedroom here and a bedroom here. All of it was enclosed in a big screen porch. I mean, on that side was enclosed screen porch. But you can see that.
Of course, that screen porch didn't come till later on. There was no screen porch, and
I don't have all of them.
Daddy and Mother came down. Must have been right after their wedding. Poor dealer, yeah. Actually, he had gotten his PhD in
plant pathology.
Plant pathology at where?
At University of Michigan.
Michigan, yeah. And then he came back to Marion and was offered this Ford dealership. Not offered, but anyway, he and his brother were the dealers then at that time.
They used to come with a wagon and a horse and wagon, and they'd spend the night in Conway. All of them would camp out. This is I don't know how many people from Marion, but this is before there were a lot of houses in Marion. It's the first I have known about people from Marion coming down to the beach in a caravan. I mean, it would be one right after the other. After that, of course, they came in cars. But to bring the possessions and all, they came, and they'd spend the night somewhere around Conway and have a big fire and all that. And then when they'd come down here, then they would stay in different places. Well, actually, the Oliver's Lodge was one place that some of them would come to, and then they'd rent. And a lot of them built houses. That's, you know, about that same time they built some houses. The Kings from Ana was the first house that was beside Oliver's Lodge, and that was, and then your house, and then the Martin house, which was not the Martin house at one time. All of the people from Oliver's Lodge to the Mrs. Grant, which is on the other side of our house, been there for 3 or 4 generations. I don't know how many I would. Are we third generation?
Oh yeah.
Or fourth?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Third, yeah.
Anyway, it's been lots of different. In each one of those houses, people from, you know, AC, Dad, and Mother built that house of yours at the same time that my mother and father built their house from Batesburg. Aunt Lois and Aunt Eunice and Aunt Bessie was your father's grandmother. I can see Aunt Bessie right now. But there were 3 different girls, Fords, from Marion too. Dr. Ford was a Baptist minister in Marion, and he loved to come down. But everybody in Marion loved to come down too, to the inlet, to visit.
And what did we do besides fish and crab? And
eat.
Clams. I mean, all
eat
you had to do was to get into the channel, you know, right in front of the house there, and just squat, and you wouldn't even need to dig. They were right there. Clams was certainly easy.
We went further out for our oysters, but we didn't have any trouble.
No, but
you could pick up
clams and crabs and shrimp. Good gosh, yeah.
Well, we lived out of the creek.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
Before we came, they had shrimp and crabs, and clams, and clam fritters, and all kinds of nice stuff.
I remember a little before the Second World War, or maybe about that time, you would find these humongous turtles in the inlet, and that's been a long time since. I don't think they came back, but
no,
do you remember those?
Yeah, of course I do.
You would be out swimming, and they were very, very big turtles, and that was one of the things I remember.
But the creek man, Jim, over at Jones's, he loved them, and if we'd get one in the shrimp net, he wanted it, and he would take and make turtle soup, make all kinds of stuff. He brought me. I said, I didn't know really and truly you could eat the. He said, of course you can, and brought us turtle soup. It's delicious. Anything that came out of Merle's Inlet came.
T.D., the turtles I was talking about.
Oh, the big.
Big.
Certainly they were.
But surely they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah. We caught them in the shrimp net. We had our own creek boy, David. And Jim was across the street there that worked for the West and several different people, and he'd come by. He was a creek boy. But we had one that stayed, came every single day.
He lived in the house.
Well, he did. He actually did after Daddy and Mother built the house in Marion.
Right.
And he moved to Marion.
I thought they had a room in the old house in Merle's Inlet, but I don't know.
He may have.
I think
he may have.
I think so.
But his family lived down the road there. But I think you're right. I think he did live.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
For a while there, I know. Mm-hmm. But we'd bring our own servant down that had. I don't know that David stayed maybe more than a year. Or we'd bring some.
Oh, I thought it was more than a year, but I don't
we brought
remember.
a cook down with us, a nurse. Mother wouldn't have dared come down here without some help bringing the children. That was just as important as getting us down here. The funny thing is about where we got ice from, and we had two big refrigerators on the backyard, back porch, and there were ice boxes. I mean, literally ice boxes with the weighted tops that would pull down, with the weight. And we'd get to our ice from Waukesha, and we'd go know when the boat was coming in, and bring on the forward bumper. I remember. By the time you had bought a big piece of ice and got it back on the bumper of the car in the summertime, it wouldn't be half the size. But anyway, the ice was so scarce. I mean, it's hard to get and so forth, that we weren't allowed into the refrigerator. And we were not allowed iced tea because the ice was too precious to chip and put on the table. So it had to be done for the refrigeration of the seafood that we'd have, or whatever kind of food we had. The only store we had was Easton Store, big white store there. And it was there for a long time, of course. Then
I think the biggest change that's happened is the fact that that whole area over there were no houses. There were no houses at all. Of course, they couldn't during the war when the planes were
used it for practice.
Used it for practice.
Nobody could go over there.
You couldn't.
Oh yeah, then there were cute boys, and I was at the age, I was 16 or 18 or somewhere between 16 and 18, and they had dances, and we'd go to the dances and have grand time. Nice boys, what they call the crash station. I guess they mentioned the crash station. And it was a splinter from the airport there at Myrtle Beach, It was a splinter group that stayed in a big barnish place. But anyway.
Down here or over at Myrtle Beach?
No, it was right down here. It's down where one of the restaurants is on this side. I bet there were at least 20 of them that stayed here all the time. Because why it was called crash boats is because they went out when the airplanes, they actually had, this is a battlefield. I mean, they would dive in here. And so the crash boats, they would have to notify the crash stations, and somebody in a boat was always available to go and pick them up in case some of the flies, and I'm sure there were probably some deaths too.
Yeah, Sister Peterkin tells about a wreck that happened.
I'm not surprised.
2 of them were killed.
And stayed through June the 6th, when we got word that our brother was killed in action, and we were down here at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew on D-Day that he would be involved, and he was. But we'd have a grand time. We'd have a grand time, and everybody on docks would swim together, and we all couldn't wait till high tide so we could go in swimming and stay in a couple of hours, you know. They didn't build it.
Oh, they didn't build it?
Dad bought the boat, but it did have a motor on the inside, you know, which was different. And it was a good-sized boat. But Dad and Uncle Ed had that. They were both in the Ford business. Uncle Ed had a place in Charlotte, so they put a Ford motor in the boat. When our boys were growing up, they were just beginning to ski, water ski. And everybody had to have a ski, so married crowd would meet over there, the wine sets and the Zebans, which were right down the road here.